I'm sure it's hard to guess, but I love Adventure Time. So when I heard a series was coming out about Fionna and Cake, I wasn't very excited. You may be thinking I'm a bit of an oxymoron here because of what I just said, but I don't really care about Fionna and Cake, so my expectations weren't very high considering my interest wasn't very high. But how do I feel about Fionna and Cake? I don't really care, honestly. Like, they could have done a show about anything else Adventure Time and I would have been down for it, but like Fiona and Cake, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna watch it, but... And I watched the first 2 episodes, and I'll admit it right here, I was wrong for not being excited about this show. The first 2 episodes were grandpappy slapping good. It felt different, but in a way that still felt familiar to what we'd seen before, which is exactly what you'd want from a sequel-ish spin-off show. This show's different in a few areas, but the most notable to me was the fact that it's not anthologically serialized. Yeah, I just made that term up. What I mean by that is every episode in Adventure Time was kind of an anthology in that they often didn't relate to another and were self-contained stories. You could watch most Adventure Time episodes and get plenty out of it. You didn't really have to watch the other episodes to get another one. But it was also serialized because it was all the same characters and it was technically all one story, and actually got a bit more serialized as it went along. It's similar to Cowboy Bebop in that way, where most episodes are random adventures but still retain canon and a cohesive narrative. Fiona and Cake, on the other hand, is more like a regular serialized show, with each episode building off of each other, which I think is much better to do because that's part of what made Adventure Time special. It's nice to change that up a little bit and have this show have its own identity. There are also 30 minutes now, which I think is fantastic because that's something I always thought Adventure Time could have benefited from, and I'm very happy that they're doing that now. Starting off with the first episode called Fiona Campbell, because Fiona now takes after her dad, who was her mom, who was Finn's mom, in you know what I mean. The first episode follows a same yet different Fiona and Cake, where they live in what we would consider the real world, where magic is gone, animals don't talk, landlords are demons, and Cheers plays on repeat on every channel. Fiona is a 20-something-year-old woman living alone with her cat Cake. She's struggling to find a purpose in life and to find a career that she can take to. So it's pretty much Gen Z right now, which, besides being extremely relatable to people my age, feels nice that the story is still aging as we're going. Just like Finn's problems in the main series were reflective of his and our ages at the time, Fiona's problems of trying to find purpose, depression, boredom, and wanting something magical in her life all feel like problems that people like myself who grew up watching Adventure Time can relate to now. And I think because of that, I like this Fiona and Cake much more than I do the regular ones. They, at least Fiona, feel more like actual characters than cheap imitations of the main fellers Finn and Jake. Things start to get a little kooky though when Cake starts to freak out seeing some glowing ice, and we follow Fiona as things continue to get worse for her as she loses her job and eventually loses Cake at the end in some magical ice portal. And during episode 1, there are a ridiculous number of cameos. Probably too many to put in this one video, but a few that stood out to me were the BMO alarm clock, Ash/Ashley, the Queen of Ooh, Hot Dog Princess, some banana guards, Fern, which I honestly thought was Slime Princess at first, and another one I messed up was Huntress Wizard/Hunter, because I thought that was Fern at first, mostly because of the eyes, but Hunter for Huntress Wizard, yeah, makes a little more sense now. Then we got the obvious ones like PB and Marshall Lee. There's loads more just standing in the background. I think one of them I heard was Nikki Yang, the voice for BMO. There are a lot of frames in this episode and the next episode where you could just pause and look around for Easter eggs in it. Though as we find out, this dimension ain't necessarily dandy and sweet. In fact, it seems everyone's having dreams about their previous selves and the aforementioned mysterious glowing ice. But I'll get more into that at the end of the video with my predictions. As for the first episode, I thought it was really good. We'll see if Fiona and Cake stay more relatable once they inevitably revert back to their original forms. But gosh darn it, I hope so. They'll still never be on the level of Finn and Jake, but I don't think that was ever the intention of this show. I actually think the title of the show was a bit misleading here, because I think it's more about Simon than Fiona and Cake, but hey, that's just me. As for episode 2, it was obviously better. I mean, we're back in Ooh with Simon and the characters that we've known for over a decade. This episode follows Simon as we get to see what his life has been like after being reset by gold in Adventure Time. And sadly, he's not doing too great. Simon feels completely out of place in Ooh. He's a regular guy from the 20th century placed in around the 30th century where everything is completely different. Actually, now that I think of it, he's essentially a smart, depressed version of Fry from Futurama. Though, unlike Fry, Simon didn't hate his life in the 20th century. So because of that, he misses it, and more importantly, he misses Betty. He is in every way a man out of time, which is probably why he lives in a self-made exhibit of a 20th century apartment, because he needs something that can help him feel a bit more normal. He's also sick of hearing about his time as Ice King. Simon eventually goes to a candy bar where we have another cameo in the form of Dirt Beer Guy, where my man can't even handle ice cubes being served to him in a drink. Though to be fair, I get that. Pepsi no ice gang. He gets to hear some more from Dirt Beer Guy about how he loved Fionna and Cake stories, and then he wrote, "Yeah! That's my goddamn brother, best friend, Giga Chad, Sigma male, Finn, baby!" Finn shows up. I was watching this at 3 a.m. on my Steam Deck, and you bet your bottom dollar my ass was awake when I saw him pop up. He looks pretty dope, I won't lie. Never thought jorts would be cool, but of course my man pulled it off. I don't necessarily know that I ever would have envisioned Finn as a big buff gym bro, but I'm not opposed to it, because my man is OP. Once he takes Simon out to the heart of the forest, on some Sniper Wolf shit, bro snapped a bear's neck with his bare hands. Though this does get me to my one criticism of the 2 episodes that I watched so far. As much as I love seeing Finn, I feel like there's a bit of a characterization problem here. I'm someone who resonated a lot with Finn's arc over the course of the main series, so it's kind of bothering me when I see Finn acting more like his season 4 self than his season 10 self. There's supposedly 12 years that have passed, and during that time, Jake has sadly passed away, which is a whole nother video, but I think we kind of have to be caught up on this new Finn if we're gonna go in that direction. Obviously, Finn is never gonna get over the death of Jake. Believe me, I get it. But I almost feel the way he is in this episode devalues parts of his arc in the main series. Like when he takes Simon out adventuring, he does it to distract Simon from the negative feelings he's feeling. But we've already established in a few different episodes, but most notably The Vault, where Finn goes deep into his subconscious and starts to unpack those past traumas that he was dealing with. Because in that episode, Finn learned the value of cleaning out his vault and facing his past traumas. But in this, he kind of just goes back to pushing everything down and doing everything he can to not face his emotions. I just think it devalues those great parts of his arc instead of taking them into account and placing them back into where we see Finn now. He also seems very headstrong and stupid, similar to his younger self, though still less so than like at the beginning of the series. Finn still loves adventuring and fighting evil, but by the end of the series in season 10, he goes to try to find non-violent solutions to solving problems, and he's much more emotionally intelligent. He's still no genius like PB, but he wasn't stupid. Most of his stupidity came from just ignorance of being young, and when he grew older, he kind of grew out of that and became less stupid, if you will. I guess the problem that I have with it is Finn in this episode seems very, yeah, let's go kill shit and beat stuff up, instead of, okay, let's see how we can fix this, and if we have to, then violence is the final result. Again, none of these things are uncharacteristic. I think they just don't match up with where Finn was at the end of the series. Though what was very Finn was when he got scratched on the back and his immediate thought was, does it look cool? Finn's arc is just really important to me. When I feel like it doesn't match up with where it was, it kind of bothers me. Despite this though, I still love the episode. My problems with it is not enough to say that the episode was bad or I didn't like it. After this though, we of course had to get hit with a Rebecca Sugar song, because that's just what Adventure Time is at this point. This lady does not miss with her Adventure Time songs. Listening to this song also gives us more insight on how Simon is feeling as he walks back to the human city. where we're told he doesn't know if it's worth being Simon again, if this is how his life is gonna be. Maybe it was just better and easier to stay the Ice King so he could be blissfully unaware again, which is really goddamn sad. After the walk home, we get the revelation that the first 2 episodes happened at the same time as Simon tries to summon Golb Betty with a makeshift Golb shrine hooked up to an evil Choose Goose. What's up with that? I mean, I know my guy bullied a 12-year-old by giving him a thimble to wear his armor and a map to lady armor. Actually, you know what? Maybe this just is regular Choose Goose. He's kind of always been an asshole. But during the ritual, instead of summoning Betty, who he wanted to see, evil Choose Goose gets a little kooky and starts dropping his diss track about Fionna and Cake, which leads Simon to thinking about them instead of Betty, which is why there was an ice portal which Cake jumped through at the end of the last episode, and then Cake jumps out of Simon's head and basically, it opened a portal from Simon's mind and Cake jumped out, and that's where the episode ends. So basically, those were the first 2 episodes. It essentially put my expectations from the floor to the moon with these 2, and honestly, I'm not that worried about it. I feel like they can definitely keep this up. I am very happy to say I was pleasantly surprised. Though before I end this video, I want to do some 1,000 brain predictions. Let me be clear, this video was recorded prior to episode 3 and 4, so anything I get wrong is your guys' fault. For my first prediction, my thoughts on what Fionna and Cake's dimension is that it's a world inside of Simon's head, similar to the pillow world from the episode Pooey. Does anybody know how to say that episode name? I feel like nobody knows. But similar to the world from that and from Everything's Jake. There's a lot of reasons to think this, besides all the characters from the regular Fionna and Cake stories being in this world and still remembering the original parts of themselves. Cake also jumps right out of the back of Simon's head, so I'd say that's a pretty good indicator. The reason I think Fionna and Cake's world is the way it is because the original Fionna and Cake story reflected Simon as Ice King, whereas the new realistic one reflects Simon as himself. And I have 3 predictions on what this show is going to be about and how it's going to end. Either Simon goes back in time with Betty and stays there and essentially dies in the Mushroom War, or he chooses to become Ice King again. Triple or, the point of this series is for Simon to find the magic again, similar to how Fionna and Cake are. The reason I say these things is because from the trailers it seems we're getting a little goofy with the multiverse here. Prismo is back, and with him essentially being the master of the multiverse, he can change anything he wants. And for my last prediction, I think the show may end in a reboot. I hope it doesn't, because it doesn't need a reboot, but very possible. But those are my predictions and thoughts on the episodes so far. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments, and I will be doing these every week an episode comes out. So if you're interested in that, feel free to stick around, maybe subscribe. If not, no worries. My episode 3 and 4 videos should be coming very soon since I was late on this one. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed and thanks for watching.